Well, there you have it. It finishes 1-1. What could have been a series that would have ended in a result for one of the two sides was spoilt by the rain in Melbourne. But nonetheless, India coming back strongly and maintaining their impeccable record of never losing the third match of a bilateral T20I series. But here at the end, it was the champion chaser and the fabulous finisher who got together and took India home at the end. Let's see what the gentleman here who had given it 55-45 think about it. But before that, let's have a quick look at the numbers. 164 for 6, and at the end 19.3 was perhaps just due to a bit of good bowling from Adam Zampa and Mitchell Starc that sort of, you'd have to say, delayed the inevitable. But in the end, I know it was 19.3, but you'd have to say India were pretty much in charge pretty much throughout that chase.
Yes, and in fact, they say that well begun is half the job done. And even though we spoke about the fantastic chaser and the fantabulous chaser who always remains unbeaten when the team India is actually chasing, that's Dinesh Karthik and not Virat Kohli in this format, it was once again down to Shikhar Dhawan. The first 6 overs. If the third over of Mitchell Starc, 6th over of that power play over was not bowled by Mitchell Starc, results still could have been slightly different if Starc had 2 left in the last 3 overs. So, if you start the way they did, Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma, life becomes a lot easier. So, 21 ball 42 or that's exactly that he ended. 41 or 22, something like that. That's the innings that actually changed the complexion of the game and of course then made life a lot easier for Kohli, for Rahul, for Dinesh Karthik.
But staying with Starc for a moment, I know we talked about it while the game was on. Yes, twice Starc was in focus. One was when he was forced to bowl that extra over, and one was perhaps if Finch could have gambled with Starc 1 over earlier. Could he maybe have bowled the 18th over? Because the formula was tie, Starc, tie. But given the number of runs left, could Starc have perhaps come earlier and given any bowler, even a Stoinis, something to bowl at in that last over?
Fair point. It's worth thinking about it. The issue is that Stoinis had an over. If it was just going to, say, a maxi, you would say that, that's something you can't try. But given the fact that he had Stoinis, he could have said that, can I give Stoinis 10 to bowl at? And that's exactly what is there. You see the bowling that's left out there. Stoinis hadn't bowled his spell. And given the circumstances, maybe he could have put the gun on, had his best shot at the Indians earlier. Make it 24 or 25 in 2 and just make it a bit more difficult. I think they missed a trick there probably.
Nathan Coulter-Nile also had an over left. So, I understand Stoinis was expensive and so was the Nathan Coulter-Nile. But then if you have to gamble, that was perhaps the right time to gamble. Bowling Mitchell Starc the 18th over, right, like you rightly mentioned.
The only thing is Finch may have looked up at the bowling card because I know Sydney has a very comprehensive scoreboard and he would have told himself in his mind 40 runs, 3 overs for 40 is what Coulter-Nile's gone for, and 1 over for 22 is what Stoinis has gone for. Do I want to go with them or do I stick with the formula and hope that Ty can bowl like his first over?
I think, look,
which is what he did.
It's yes, half of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. My big point is that it would have been better to gamble because your best weapon was Starc. The earlier I can deploy my best weapon. See, when you have a very, very long shot, and that's what it was. By the time 3 overs left, it means Australians are really on the back foot. Then do something unexpected. Change the game a bit. Because see, the normal conditions, you play the normal cards, they'll play the normal cards, they're going to win 8 out of 10 times. So change the deck. That's what I would say.
I thought he was actually quite okay. In fact, bringing Starc back, yes, his hand was forced at that point in time somewhat, but then bowling 4 from Maxwell. Maxwell did not bowl a single over earlier when Zampa bowled well, so that was in Brisbane. But now, come Sydney, he's bowled his full quota of 4 overs, was economical. He did rotate his bowlers quite nicely, but then at times that there is a Virat Kohli in the end. And it was almost just a little over run a ball in the back 10 overs of a T20 innings. 9 out of 10 times you will chase it down if you have wickets in hand, and if one of those wickets happen to be Virat Kohli, well, maybe 10 out of 10 times you'll end up on the winning side.
But overall, it was a good illustration of why a 6th bowler is important. Someone like a Stoinis, who's actually won you a match not too long ago, has gone for 22, and you've got to say, okay, I've got to start thinking differently now. Maxwell didn't bowl previously, let me give him a full quota of overs. I need to take 1 away from Coulter-Nile because he's gone for a few. So that's when 6, even 7 bowlers help.
I think it does, and I think they played it well. The only thing was that given the kind of form, and here's the interesting thing, how The beauty of Virat's batting is the fact that he doesn't seem to force it. He'll take a very specific risk at a very specific time and take it off, and he'll do it in as riskless a way as possible, if that's possible to say. He'll pick his places, he'll do it well. That innings was a spectacular innings because, you see, India had 2 twin shocks. So at 67, I think we lost 2 wickets, and then again at 108, we lost a couple. And both times he lost them without a run being scored in between. And the second time when he was there, he was just there to stabilize it, took just 2 or 3 big shots, but he made sure those counted and then ran like hell. See the number of twos, see the number of times that he loosened the grip to make sure that he could get it too. That's class batting.
And the beauty of it is, I know you use the adjective for a spectacular innings. The average fan will want to see a spectacular innings means Virat looking at his best. But the beauty of that innings, I think, was he didn't look at his best. He himself will tell himself that I was scratchy at times, I was playing certain horizontal shots that are not quite me. But 61 or 41, India win the game. That's what you want.
Job well done. And you don't have to look pretty. It does not matter. Ugly runs are equally important as long as you win the game for the side. And that's what he's done. I think, see, his DNA is slightly different from the rest. Once he's chasing a target, he breaks it down into pieces better than anybody else on the planet at this point in time. And that is when, actually, when you're chasing a total down, you stop thinking about yourself. You detach your personal milestones, personal ego and everything from that particular innings, because your eyes are set towards a target, and you know that if I'm there till the end, I will win the game for Team India. And for the opposition also, they also were focusing on just one man, so much so that they didn't even know what to do with Dinesh Karthik. A slightly long hop ball will come his way, maybe a slightly outside off Yorker, which is slightly said not executed properly. These things do happen. If Kohli is still around, if Kohli is not around, you know, your partner, he doesn't get too many loose balls either. I experienced that with Virender Sehwag because there was so much of focus on him that I got an easy boundary here, a cheap boundary somewhere else. And that's exactly what happens, what transpires when Virat Kohli is at crease. You know that your partner is going to benefit without even actually doing anything exceptional.
Let's just remind you once again of what transpired in, as we said, the final limited overs game for 2018. That's the final figures for India. 168 for 4, 19.4. Virat Kohli 61 of 41. Not his prettiest innings ever, but just as effective as so many of the other successful run chases he's been a part of. And Dinesh Karthik loves those figures. When he stays unbeaten in that chase, India win. He did it again. Kept Virat Kohli company at a time when the loss of Rishabh Pant meant there could have been a few hiccups. Mitchell Starc had no over to bowl and they did it beautifully. But we at the top of the show, our experts agreed that the top 3 have to do it. And Virat Kohli, of course, had to be in the top 3. But in this case, we've all praise for King Kohli, but let's not forget the foundation that he actually climbed in with.
Absolutely. And Shikhar Dhawan was absolutely sensational to see the innings that he played. Both Shikhar and Rohit, there are a couple of shots, I call them, disheartening shots for the bowler. When he goes and when that typical flick that Rohit does, dispatches it to the mid-wicket square leg boundary, and the way he hits that. And there was a couple that, this one hit after that. Shikhar Dhawan hit, the one to mid-wicket again. I mean, just it makes the bowler feel small and wonder why am I even bothering? I might as well give the ball to anyone. It's not going to make a difference,
And life has changed for Shikhar Dhawan somehow. For all these years of IPL, T20 at the highest level, he's been very underwhelming. And you couldn't understand why, because he is one guy who's aggressive. He's someone who's playing test cricket because he can take the game away from the opposition. He's so much Sehwag-like, but then came T20s, he was half the player. Strike rate of 118 for the longest period of time. In fact, before 2018, his numbers were very mediocre. But now something has actually changed. He's suddenly become a different player. He's the aggressor. He's taking on the bowlers. He looks at ease, or rather makes batting look a lot easier than it actually is. And he doesn't mind going the aerial route as well, very often in the power play overs. In fact, it's not an easy thing to do. He actually overshadows Rohit Sharma for just the sheer shot making very often, which is a feat in itself.
I also have one thing to say, and it's, all of us, tend to move towards nostalgia. So we'll always, when we talk about opening combinations, we'll think Saurav Sachin and, the old combinations. But the truth is, we are seeing 2 modern greats of the game playing for India. This opening partnership between Rohit and Shikhar across limited overs format is probably one of the finest that international cricket has ever seen. I mean, it goes there with Desmond Haynes, it's up there with, with Shorav and Sachin, it's up there with anyone else who's played the game. I think they're amazing together, and over formats, both these formats, now they're looking dominant together, and it's really, if those two get going, it makes life so much easier for India.
And it was almost the perfect building, if you call it that. You had the start, you had the solid Virat Kohli there till the end, and of course you had the finisher. As an individual, I think it's worth mentioning, the last time around, 30 of 13 balls, he would have been disappointed that he couldn't actually get India the win. This time, he stayed there and he got them the win.
Yeah, he closed it for
13 times since 2017, he's been, 13 innings he's played, 10 times not out.
Absolutely. Sensational statistics. And the other thing is, for Virat, it will be fantastic. What's going to happen to him is he's going to go in there in this first test with a lot of confidence, because you can say it's a different format. It doesn't matter. You've gone there, you've had a win which hasn't been the easiest of wins. I mean, you've had starters in the middle and you've gone and converted it. It's a great place to be when you walk out there for the test match. They threw their biggest weapon at us, they threw Stark at us, we made it through. We won it for India. That's very important.
Let's remind ourselves that there was no Mahendra Singh Dhoni in this side. It's been a while that India has played limited overs cricket without Dhoni in the playing 11 and Dhoni as a finisher. But was he missed? Perhaps maybe a little in Brisbane, but definitely not in Sydney. And on both occasions, there was somebody else who actually took center stage. That was Dinesh Karthik. He was exceptional in Brisbane, couldn't finish things off, which will happen with the best of finishers from time to time. It's not a guarantee that if you're a good finisher, you'll always end up on the winning side. It takes two to tango. You need runs from the other end as well. But in Sydney, he did play the second fiddle to Virat Kohli, but that's exactly what was required and took the pressure off with a 6 and a 4. That 6 was just sensational. It almost went outside the stadium, and it's a fairly big ground. He was exceptional.
Yeah, we all thought it was going to be a catch.
Third set up top edge. Wow, it was a top
it
shot.
Looked like a top edge. Top edge, top shot. But to blunt that weapon, really, we talked about Stark, and he bowled brilliantly in his opening spell. But I think India were well aware of that, and they told themselves, if he's going to bowl well, if he's going to bowl on our toes, we just have to keep ourselves intact, go after the other guy, and they did that.
Yeah, and Shikhar did it beautifully. In fact, till he got out, Shikhar did it beautifully. He picked his points, he decided that he's not going to go after Stark, give him that respect. Finally, it's 4 overs. Finally, it's 1/5, it's 20% of it. I'm going to get a couple of singles, he's going to bowl a couple of loose balls. And when I'm set, I might even have a go at a good ball as well.
It also tells us, that the difference between, even if I personally feel that IPL is the best T20 league in the world, but this difference is still stark. It's huge when you play domestic cricket, which is an IPL or T20 league, and when you play international cricket, where there is no respite. Andrew Tye was almost unstoppable, the best bowler on show for Kings 11 Punjab and previously for Gujarat Lions. You thought that you got one guy who's outstanding at T20 cricket. He's been shown his place twice now, not just once, not finishing his quota of overs. Whenever he does, he goes for a lot of runs. The same can be said about Nathan Coulter-Nile. So when there is quality at both ends, that seldom happens in T20 leagues. But at the highest level, you've got 2 quality batsmen to contain with, and that's not easy.
And one of the beauties of this particular game is we've had a discussion for a few minutes already about the 2 openers, about brilliance from Virat Kohli and the finishing of Dinesh Karthik. We haven't even mentioned the man of the match yet in this discussion. So it's been Krunal Pandya, man of the match. You might say, yes, it's not perhaps his most lethal spell ever, but at the end of the day, that crucial time when he took those wickets, that's what set Australia back 20 runs, maybe more.
I think he did a really good job of bowling very ordinary balls which were hit to fielders. I'd love to say that this is a great analysis, but the truth of it is he bowled in a place the batsman should have hit it for 6. He ended up finding fielders. This is not the kind of spell. I mean, he wasn't a searching spell. If you had to give it then for quality of bowling, I'd have to say Stark is far ahead of what he did. Definitely. Not to mention Bumrah in his own team or Kuldeep Yadav in his own team. The fact of the matter is, here's one of the places where I say, I'm sorry, that's not the best effort of the game on the day. And it's a kind of, let me put it this way, it's a kind of result or the kind of man of the match decision given when you've not seen the match and you've seen a scorecard.
Scorecard, 4 for 36.
4 for 36, give it to him. Okay, 160, everyone's got runs, so 250 is 160 out here. Okay, let's go for the 4 for 36. And the fact of the matter is, it's not among the top 5 performances of the match, in my opinion.
Which exactly was the product of our discussion here.
And the funny thing is that's the best figure by a spinner in Sydney by an Indian, definitely by a huge margin. So, well, that's the story.
But if you were adjudicators here, Virat Kohli maybe?
I would actually go to Virat Kohli. Yes, finishing the job is a little tougher. I am with Joy on this one that the quality of bowling should not always be judged on the basis of number of wickets taken by a bowler. In that respect, if you were to look at the entire match, Kuldeep Yadav was perhaps head and shoulders above the rest, 4 overs, 19 runs, 1 wicket. So you know that he was that guy who ensured that Australia did not manage 180 and they were 15 short of that margin or rather that mark, and therefore India ended up on the winning side. If it was 180, promise you, even with Virat Kohli, this was not happening. The way the game actually ended up. So Kuldeep Yadav, then in that respect, bowled the best, but he's not the man of the match. If not him, then definitely Virat Kohli for finishing the game.
I mean, let me go down that list, okay? Virat Kohli, that would be number 1 for me. Kuldeep Yadav. Shikhar Dhawan.
Dhawan played a good knock, absolutely.
Stark, okay, ahead of him. At 5, even at 5, I'd struggle because I think, you know, there were better performances than that. You know, really.
Yeah, I think you summed it up. It's you've seen the scorecard, and we've seen probably 9 times out of 10 a scorecard just doesn't tell the story of what happened in a game. But no disputes as far as the man of the series is concerned. Shikhar Dhawan, he was outstanding every time he walked out to bat.
Absolutely, and you know, again, as you know, Aakash has been saying for a long time that you wonder why he shouldn't be playing a test match, and then maybe he'll play a test match
and then you'll wonder why. Oh, that's the thing. I think he loves pace, he loves bounce, he likes these Australian pitches, and now he's actually crying out loud that can I please somehow get into the test side as well, because you always searched for an opener who was flamboyant and
you couldn't think of a better start than Mohali.
Correct, and replacing the guy who he eventually, or perhaps he in any way was emulating, Virendra Sehwag. But I think that line in the sand has already been drawn. So, however tempting it might be, Shikhar will have to be happy with the white ball cricket.
I have one more big worry. The thought of Rishabh Pant keeping for 5 days in these pitches with these conditions with bounce and everything.
I personally feel he'll be okay. He won't be that bad. Australia is not a bad place to keep.
Kuldeep, because my point is the extra bounce. No, not Kuldeep, sorry. What am I talking about? Ashwin and Singh.
I think
the extra bounce.
I think he'll be fine. If it's not a rank turner may just test him a little more. England is a tough place to keep, and that's where he was conceding a lot of byes, but then some of them were not stoppable. They were just too wide, the balls, and they were given as byes. But I think here as a keeper he'll be fine. I'm slightly worried actually the way he's been batting. Though this is the X factor and all of that, somebody has to be in his ears and tell him that, you know, my way or the highway does not work. This is the way I bat, should never supersede common sense and what is required on the day. A lot of people may still argue that India lost that first game because Rishabh Pant played that cheeky shot to get dismissed in Brisbane. Today as well, an opportunity, captain at the other end, you don't need 15 and over. First ball, instinctive shot, yes, but then in the end, you know, over a long period of time, you'll be judged by the execution of the choices that you make. If the execution is not spot on, you will be judged. And let's not forget, you're keeping a guy called Mahendra Singh Dhoni out of the side, and you are that designated keeper. So you got to be at your best almost every single time.
Yes, so 2 things we're going to keep an eye on. One is Rishabh Pant's keeping in batting and Prithvi Shaw.
You and I will have a conversation.
All right, we'll have that. Test. Done.
Fair enough. So, and as far as you're concerned, I'm going to be watching Prithvi Shaw and Rishabh Pant very closely and thinking about you every time they walk out to bat.
Correct.
But since we talked about this being the final limited overs game in a sense across both the formats for India in 2018, it's probably good to look back at the year that was from an Indian perspective. When you think of India's performances, the only loss that really comes to mind is that narrow 2-1 loss in the ODI series to England. Otherwise, overall, it's been an impeccable year for the men in blue when they're actually wearing blue.
It's been outstanding. 2 bowlers, they'll stand out. I think these success stories, and for a change, and it really warms our hearts that these success stories of Indian cricket are now scripted by bowlers. Whether you look at South Africa, the test matches, England, the test matches within reason, obviously you didn't win it, but then whenever you competed courtesy your bowlers. And even now, wherever you see when India bowls first, they restrict the opposition to either a below par total or a par score. Hardly do you see them actually going 25-30 above par. That makes the job of the batsman easier. And even though we are a batting nation and we will always eulogize batsmen and write odes, but the fact is the real heroes for me, Chahal, Kuldeep and Bumrah. To a certain extent, Bhuvneshwar Kumar as well. So these four have been instrumental in the way Indian cricket has evolved as a T20 team.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Bumrah struggled with injury. Otherwise, he's been very good when he's been really fit, completely fit. But otherwise, yes. And that's what I mean. This year, if you look at it, I mean, I was looking at the biggest, hits of this year, and it was Sanju and Padmavat. And I had to say that your Sanju for the year, your Sanju for the year has to be Shikhar Dhawan. I mean, really, as a T20 and as a
donning different roles as well, like Ranbir
yeah.
Kapoor, different attires.
Different places.
He's also played test matches. He's also played test matches. So therefore,
exactly, he's done everything this year. And your Padmavat would have to be somewhere between Kuldeep and Chahal. Somewhere there. I mean, both these guys have been brilliant. Kuldeep perhaps more because he's been our designated shock weapon. I mean, really, when the captain has had trouble, almost in any circumstances in limited over cricket, he's tossed the ball to him and told him to try. And when they've dropped him, they found out to their cost. They went in England, they suddenly went and dropped him for a match, if you remember.
Correct.
So the numbers really, if you were to summarize, we've had a total of 10 limited over series, and we're looking at both formats, 5 T20I and 5 ODI series. India have won 8 of them. One, the current one, has ended up in a tie, a draw, 1-1, one washout, and that one loss to England in the summer. And that too, it was not a series that you'd walk away saying, oh, we were outplayed, because you were in it. Just like you were.
Gautam, while it's great to celebrate, and we must, because what's the point of winning if you don't celebrate wins? But then, these bilateral series, in my opinion, they are only a means to an end. So don't look at them very closely with regards to the outcomes of the series by series basis. Look at where your team is evolving, because limited overs cricket, white ball cricket is only leading to a world event. So if you are a good enough team over the 4 years between the two World Cups, World T20s in T20s case, then you've actually evolved, you've progressed as a cricketing nation.
Okay, just to make you pause there, to help your case,
Yeah.
we've had 2 multi-nation tournaments. This year, Asia Cup, Nidhi has won both.
Yes, in T20, no, Asia Cup was 50 over cricket, India, Champions Trophy was previous year. So India has done well, but again, multi-nation also. See, my point is simple, that you're looking at the World Cup. Whatever you do in between is great, but the final trophy, that's the final prize. No matter whether you win Nidhas or you lose Nidhas, for that timing you will be happy. Asia Cup champions, fantastic and all of that. But if you come second on in 2019, the final day, then all
14
this
July.
14 July, then all this will go waste. That's what I feel, because as a cricketing nation, India is now primed to win championships on a regular basis, whether it's T20 cricket or one-day cricket. So 2019 World Cup will be my main objective. So you're leading to that. Even if you lose a bilateral series in between, I don't really mind that much. So what happened in England, it's okay. I'm all right with that, as long as you win the big trophy.
And 2019, of course, will start with a bilateral series, ODI series in Australia against Australia. That's going to be our next limited overs action, with that little break in between for those 4 things called test matches.
What a test match. No, also, my big thing is that 2019 for me is, for at least for the big international, this thing, for the 50 over World Cup, the last hurrah for probably Rohit and Shikhar together. I can't see them playing another 4 years together. So it's a big one. To get those two together and to have Rohit, Kohli at 3 is a combination. It's not our Fab 5, but it's very, very close to that in terms of, dream team kind of performance. We need to take as much advantage of these 3 being at the center of the Indian batting.
But I'll just throw one at both of you. I mean, since you brought up this point about a bilateral series, yes, you celebrate the win at the time, but what is its long-term impact vis-a-vis, say, something like a World Cup? Is there a positive to going with some kind of a points format like the women had started, in terms of every bilateral series counting towards something? Yes, of course you have a World Cup.
It's starting with the World Series, the test matches.
Yeah.
See, with the one-day cricket, T20 cricket, you can build that system. That's fine. That you're actually, so of course, you want to be the best team in the world in all three formats, and they count for something. There are rating points still in place. Joy will have more inputs with regards to that. But then I still feel, see, even when you look at the series, the similar 11 actually played, the exactly identical 11 played in all three games. You will also once again objectively look at people like Manish Pandey, Shreyas Iyer, Washington Sundar. Where are they going? Are these guys in your scheme of things? And how are you going to utilize those assets, or at least let them convert into assets? So that's something still to ponder over, even if you lose a series, win a series, draw a series.
I have one just very small limited point to make. You can't have an orgasm over 15 minutes. And therefore, to have a championship
unless you're a pig.
Over 3.5 years to say, okay, I've got 2 points, I've got 2 points, to follow it over 2 years, it doesn't work, boss. End of the day, here's a tournament, you're playing, I'm going to win, this is 14th of July, there's going to be a winner. To have these 2 points ahead and 2 points behind, these all sound very well in theory, but basically with the number of distractions we have, nobody has the concentration to follow it. You're not going to say, wow, we are now 52% instead of 51%. Dude, it doesn't happen.
Fair enough. But I was
or not as the orgasm over 15 minutes while we're at it.
Okay, I'm trying to steer clear of that at the moment, but I was on a totally different subject. When you were mentioning Washington Sundar and Shreyas Iyer, I know the broadcaster was very, very keen to show us the sights of Australia. Maybe they could have taken them and got them to host this entire segment of let us show you the sights of Australia. They would have been well employed at that time.
Well, absolutely. But then, see, I'm slightly worried, honestly worried for Manish Pandey, because he is in your scheme of things. It seems that he's going to England for the World Cup. Okay, different formats, but then at some stage he should get games. And it doesn't look like happening at this point in time. And 3-match bilateral series will never allow you to really tinker with the batting lineup so much. Ambati Rayudu comes in for the first ODI, that's on 12th of January 2019. And will you even just entertain the thought of resting him for in 1 or 3 matches? Not at all. Will you actually rest the top 3? Not at all. Once again, Shikhar Dhawan is one format player or other white ball player. Rohit Sharma, whatever happens in Test cricket, you cannot really discard and you say, okay, I'll look at somebody else. And even if you were to look at somebody else, it's not Manish Pandey who's going to open. So are you actually prepping properly? So that is one question that India will have to quickly answer, because now you're running out of time for sure.
Akash, I'm really not sure Manish Pandey is in the 50 over scheme of things. Maybe a 20 over scheme of things, 50 over.
He is a part of the side. I'm telling you, 15-member squad that if it is going to England, and that will be, I hope it's 15 and not 16, he's definitely going.
Because see, if you look at this
add
team,
Kedar Jadhav to the mix.
See, I'm saying Kedar Jadhav, I'm saying Ambati Rayudu. Ambati is the guy that Virat actually turned around and said, he's my number 4 designated.
That's 6 players already.
Yep. Then Dinesh Karthik on his current form, is he?
Dinesh Karthik is not a part of the ODI team. He was dropped previously.
But was Manish a part of that?
He was. He didn't play. So that's the thing. He's not getting games. He played 1 game in Asia Cup, sat out the entire West Indies tour, and then he's not played here. He will be a part of the ODI team. So if he's being carried around so regularly, you know that he is in their scheme of things, is what I feel. Manish Pandey, in my opinion, is going, but then will he get games? That's the question, because Pant and Dinesh Karthik, I don't see both of them going. In fact, there is a possibility both might not go. And Rahul is carried as a second wicket keeper for Mahendra Singh Dhoni's, because Rahul is not playing the one-day game either. He's in the squad, but doesn't really feature in the playing 11. So I think that's where a lot of churning is going to happen with regards to your thought process and who you're going to invest in. Rahul's an interesting one, because he's been through a period where no matter what he's doing in the 20-over format, he's actually sitting out games in the 50-over format. And he's not helping his cause to actually be a permanent member in the T20s format as well. 3 matches against West Indies, 3 matches now, obviously batted only twice. The way he got out today, I had serious issues with that, him and Pant, both. Because why allow the opposition to come back, crawl back into the side, into the match when the match is already in the bag?
When your openers have given you a situation where you're saying, you don't have to go hell for leather from ball 1. You have 7, 8, 9 balls to play out in this thing. Very rarely in T20 cricket do you have the luxury of such a good start that guys at 3 and 4 can actually play a bit. And Virat took full advantage of that. He ran his 1s and 2s very hard and then got his eyes set, then started hitting.
Yeah, I think we should get all of you involved in this. We've had a stimulating discussion. I know we get you involved in terms of answering Joy's questions and various other things. But how about you tell us your preferred 15 at this stage for that World Cup in 2019? Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. get it into us and tell us what you think your 15 is, and we'll probably get both Aakash and Joy to try and respond to that, depending on if you've thrown in some names, thrown in any names in the mix who maybe we haven't even thought of. We feel maybe Manish Pandey is there. Is he going to be there? Dinesh Karthik, is that one place that's up for grabs? At least the good thing is in this discussion is that, you know, we talk about eulogizing batsmen. We've not really been discussing the bowlers, which means that's a more settled department for the moment.
Yes and no.
Relatively speaking.
See, yes and no, because the third fast bowler, yes, we all have identified Khalil and Shami as your 3 and 4, but is Khalil giving you that much confidence now?
Umesh
when you are
ahead of
against
Shami?
Umesh is not going. Umesh, in my opinion, one day cricket, I don't see him making a cut, because he played a couple of games against West Indies. Then he was part of the squad, but did not get a game. It was Khalil who was preferred. Even when you won the series comprehensively, you're not really looking at Umesh Yadav, not even in the T20Is. He's with the squad. He's in Australia right now, but doesn't get a game. So that tells me that Umesh is not really in their thoughts at this point in time. Khalil, against a better opposition on good pitches in these 3 matches, has told us that it's still work in progress. The guy has got a lot of upside to him, but has not really cemented his place in the side. And there is a possibility when you play in England that you need to play 3 fast bowlers in the playing 11. So who's your third bowler? It has to be Mohammad Shami. But then Shami, one day cricket, white ball cricket, blowing hot, blowing cold. So that I think that's just one little area of debate. Your spinners are settled.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think the one player in this entire discussion you'd have to feel for, because I know we talked about the players who didn't play in Australia, but let's not forget the likes of Umesh and even Washington Sundar. They did get a look in at least one game. It's the only person who's completely been left out of the entire scenario, but's been there in the sidelines, is Shreyas Iyer.
Shreyas Iyer is there. I'm talking about Chahal as well. Let's put his name as well, no? Because poor guy is not getting a game, and he doesn't even know what's
one
going
game.
on. Not here.
Not
earlier.
here.
Earlier, yes, played one game, but then he's just sitting out. Shreyas Iyer, it's a fantastic story actually. Shreyas Iyer was your designating number 4 when Sri Lanka came here. He got runs. He went to South Africa. South Africa, it was Ajinkya Rahane who became number 4. Shreyas Iyer was still part of the squad. IPL happened. After IPL, India went to England. I think Shreyas got dropped. Shreyas got dropped from the play, from the 15, without really doing anything wrong. So he was okay against Sri Lanka, then did not get an opportunity against South Africa, suddenly was out of favour against England, and now he's come back into the scheme of things. So it's a very curious case. Where exactly his career is heading at this point in time, nobody actually knows.
You have ever thought of going to HR management?
I would not want to.
And counsel them.
I know.
Absolutely. I know, it's true. And this is one of the things you're talking about. So many players, and now at least it's in the media more often than it used to be. Before, people didn't even know why they were being dropped, not being dropped. And really, that's why if you see a lot of cricketers are extremely superstitious, because they say there's no other way of calling anything. Just buy the right coverage or wear it, because that's all you can do, because you don't know why you're being picked and why you're being dropped. Exactly as Shreyas Iyer could have.
Suresh Raina actually also came into the picture in between, He was also, when Ambati got injured, or rather he didn't pass the yo-yo test,
England.
it was Suresh Raina who was actually brought in ahead of Shreyas Iyer once again, and Ajinkya Rahane, who actually did all right in South Africa. It was not that bad, and suddenly he just fell out of favour that no, not now. After a middling IPL, you're not our number 4 anymore, even though the matches were in England. So, and I was reading Rahane's interview the other day. He says, I will be a part of the World Cup team. I'm pretty sure about it. So, he's also very sure.
All right, so 1 out of 15 is settled. The other 14, we've got 14 more members to fill in.
That's a good place to start.
I guess we'll stick Virat Kohli in, so that's 13 left. But that's the beauty of Indian cricket. That's the beauty of cricket in general, that it just gives us so many points to ponder and so many questions that need to be answered. And we here on Cricbuzz Live have tried to answer almost every one of them except one. The only man who knows the answer to that is Joy Bhattacharya. And of course, the person who's won it, and a few thousand others who have answered it.
Others who've answered on this one as well. Well, the question was, and here it goes, if Lawrence Stroh, Matthew Sinclair, Jacques Rodolphe and Brendan Kurupu are the other names, which Englishman should be top of the list for something he did at the SCG? And the answer is R.E. Foster, better known as Tip Foster, who scored the highest test score on debut, 287 not out. He's got another interesting thing, the only man to captain England in both cricket and football.
Whoa.
He's an amazing character, played just 6 matches, died of diabetes at the age of 36.
Oh my God.
But just 6 matches. And if you see that, all the names on this list, almost all these guys have had very short careers. All have had great starts, but have had short careers. Very interesting. Love to know who answered it first, because
It's not Kaustav Pathak for sure. I know now.
No, he
okay,
didn't.
it is Manmohan Singh who's got it first. And the interesting thing is that Kaustav Pathak actually gave the answer first.
And
the
typo.
first answer, and he answered Tip Foster, which is Reginald Foster's nickname. Only thing, the typo on the phone made it Tim Foster. And that's the one reason why he didn't make it 3 out of 3.
But honestly, see, I didn't make it 3 out of 3. But I like the Twitter handle of that guy. I sucked _ ladka. Oye, oye, oye. इसके लिए दे दो यार.
I suck ladka.
I sucked _ ladka. Oh, beautiful. Manmohan Singh.
Yeah, but with Manmohan Singh, he was unlikely to be a girl, right?
But he's talking.
Yeah, true. It's attitude, yeah. It's
Look where we've gone. Look where we've gone.
I know,
Subtly
again.
brings that in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Final thoughts before we wrap up for the final time in 2018. We're going to be in white clothing, at least the Indian team are going to be in white clothing. What will this series, given the fact that we've got a few common factors on both sides, what will this mean come December 6th at the Adelaide Oval?
India will view this as a huge opportunity. One final time in 2018, I thought this will be the year that will define Virat Kohli's legacy as a captain. And had the opportunity to put him right at the top of that wonderful illustrious tree that we have of former Indian captains, because South Africa, great opportunity. And I thought India can actually win that one. 6 innings, India took 60 wickets. That's phenomenal, never happened before. India went down 2-1. England, another outstanding opportunity. I thought this time India will actually make amends big time and will rewrite history. Didn't happen, went down 4-1 once again. Now this is the final frontier in terms of 2018. Because you look at this Australian setup, there's no Warner, there's no Smith. Even if you were to look at Khwaja, who's recovering from an injury, he may be available, he might just play, but there are 2 debutants. There are questions, ifs and buts when you look at the Australian unit. Great bowling lineup, but not a great batting lineup to boot. So Indian team, I think they'll be really kicked to start this series. It's starting in Adelaide. Couldn't have started at a better venue. Pitch will be to their liking. So hopefully India will create something special for us to remember for a long, long time.
Joy?
Absolutely. I'm just hoping and waiting, and I hope that he's as correct as he is. I'm expecting after Adelaide, I'm expecting a lot of 4-day test matches. Because I think both batting sides aren't the greatest. It's their bowling which is their strength. Expect some pretty fast endings as well. And it could go both ways for us. I'm hoping that we just have that much more experience in the batting unit to take us through.
Play 6 batsmen.
Fair enough. If his words are true, like Shreyas Iyer, you'll have a bit of sightseeing to do in Australia. So Aakash, enjoy your time down under. Joy, thanks always for your time, and all of you for tuning in to Cricbuzz Live. Of course, keep following the test series, because we'll give you our inputs throughout, not just the scores that you can follow in real time, double quick time, but we will be back with Cricbuzz Live come 2019, when India and Australia go head to head in a build-up of what's going to be a massive year in ODI cricket leading up to the 2019 World Cup. For now, for the last time in 2018, from Cricbuzz Live, from Joy, from Aakash, myself and the whole team, it's goodbye.